All right, everyone, let's talk Kawasaki.
Hmm.
Specifically, the 7 Hybrid that everyone's been buzzing about.
It's been hard to miss, that's for sure. Lots of hype. But today we'll dig into whether it's all talk or if this thing is the real deal.
Yeah, and for that, we're diving deep into this article from bikermototighter.com, fresh off the press from today, March 4th, 2025.
They really break it down, and honestly, what's got me excited is how Kawasaki isn't just, throwing an electric motor onto an old design.
Right, right. It seems like a from-the-ground-up kind of thing.
Absolutely, they're really thinking about how to pull off performance and sustainability at the same time, which isn't easy.
And from what I've seen, it looks like they're going for a few different types of riders with this one, which, can be tricky. I think they'll manage to nail it for, say, the eco-conscious rider, the tech-obsessed, and, of course, those who just want a seriously fun ride.
I think they might just pull it off. I mean, for those looking to be a little greener, you've got that electric-only mode for those shorter trips, and the hybrid system just in general means less emissions overall, right?
Makes sense.
And then for the tech lovers, there's that fancy TFT display and all the rider aids they packed in. And let's be real, 120 horsepower and 100 pound-feet of torque, that's going to get anyone's heart racing.
No argument there. So it seems like they're checking a lot of boxes on paper. But we all know a bike's got to look the part too, right? What's the visual vibe they're going for with this one?
Imagine like sharp, clean lines, low profile, and it just has this aggressive stance. It screams speed, especially in that Kawasaki lime green.
Oh yeah, that's classic Kawasaki.
But for those who want something a bit more understated, they've also got it in metallic matte black and pearl white.
Nice. Options are always good, but a head-tuning design is one thing, comfort's another.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to be spending hours in the saddle. Did they skimp out on that at all?
Not from what I've read. They're highlighting a nice wide seat, plenty of padding, and they really focused on the ergonomics, with the handlebars and foot pegs.
That's
Sound like they want you to actually enjoy those longer rides.
good to hear, especially with a 200-mile range. You'll definitely want to be comfortable for that. Speaking of which, let's talk about that engine, that hybrid setup. What's the secret sauce there?
Well, it's a parallel hybrid system. Basically, it means both the electric motor and the gas engine can power the wheels either on their own or together.
So it's not like one takes over from the other. They can work, like, side by side.
Exactly. Imagine two horses pulling a chariot. Depending on what you need, you can have one or both doing the work.
I like that analogy. So I could be cruising through the city, all quiet and electric. Then when I hit the highway, boom, full hybrid power for those spirited rides, right?
You got it. And every time you brake, you're actually getting a little energy boost back to the battery with that regenerative braking.
Okay, that's pretty slick.
Right.
But when most people hear hybrid, they immediately think limited range, right?
Yeah.
How does this bike deal with that concern?
That's where that 60V32A8 lithium-ion battery comes in. On electric power alone, you're looking at about 50 miles. Now, think about your average commute. For a lot of people, that covers their daily trips with no gas needed at all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And for those longer hauls, the hybrid system kicks in, boosting the range to, get this, 200 miles.
Whoa, 200. That's impressive. That's like, what, riding from San Francisco to Lake Tahoe without stopping for gas.
Exactly. It definitely opens up the possibilities for hybrid motorcycles.
For sure. But what about charging? That's always the next question. Nobody wants to be tethered to an outlet all day.
Right. And they seem to have that covered too. Standard outlet, you're looking at about 4 to 6 hours to fully charge.
Okay, that's not terrible, considering the range.
And if you're in a hurry, there are fast charging options that can get you topped up in 1 to 2 hours.
Nice. So the powertrain and range sound pretty solid. But what about the tech side of things? Does this thing live up to the whole smart motorcycle idea?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about looking futuristic. They've loaded it with features that actually make a difference. That TFT display we talked about. It's basically your command center.
Command center, huh?
Yeah.
That sounds serious.
It is. Think speed, battery level, even navigation and music controls. It's all there.
So you're saying I could be cruising down the road, tunes blasting, directions right there on the dash, all while keeping an eye on everything I need.
Exactly. And because it pairs with your phone via Bluetooth, you can even handle calls and music without taking your hands off the bars.
Wow, that's a level of integration we don't really see in motorcycles yet. Talk about staying connected.
They're definitely pushing the boundaries there. But let's not forget about safety. What about those rider aids?
Yeah, those are crucial. Did they hold back on those at all?
Not a chance. You've got traction control, ABS, and those selectable ride modes, Eco, Hybrid, and Sport. It's all about giving you control and keeping you safe.
Okay, break down those ride modes for me. Why would someone choose one over the other?
All right, picture this. You're stuck in rush hour. Eco mode is going to prioritize efficiency, giving you the most out of that electric range and saving you gas. Smooth and steady, that's the key.
Right, makes sense.
But then when you're out on the open road and feeling a little adventurous, sport mode kicks in. It unleashes both the electric and gas engines, giving you that extra kick.
Yeah, I can see the appeal of that. So when would you use hybrid mode? Just in between.
Hybrid mode is your all-arounder. It balances the electric and gas to get the best of both worlds depending on the road and how you're riding. Set it and forget it for everyday riding, basically.
So they've really thought about how to give you options based on how you actually ride. I like that.
Yeah.
But before we go too far, I'm curious about something else. You mentioned a full LED lighting system. That's got to be more than just looking cool, right?
You're right. It's both style and substance. LEDs definitely give the bike a modern edge, but they're also super energy efficient. Big plus for a hybrid, obviously.
Right, less strain on the battery.
And they last way longer than those old school bulbs, so fewer trips to the mechanic.
So it's win-win.
Yeah.
But how about the light itself? How do LEDs compare to regular headlights, for actually seeing at night?
Oh, they're much better. Brighter, clearer light, especially in the dark. And they react faster, so say if conditions change suddenly, they can adjust quicker, which means other drivers see you better too.
So it's a safety thing too.
Exactly. No compromises there. It seems like Kawasaki really went all in with this one.
From what we've seen so far, I'd say so. But we're not done yet.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So we talked a lot about all the cool stuff this bike has, but I think it's time to, really get under the hood and see how it all works.
Okay, yeah, we touched on that parallel hybrid system before the break, but the article didn't really get into the nitty-gritty of how the electric and gas work together.
Right, so let's break that down. Imagine you're at a light, ready to take off.
Okay, I'm there.
You twist the throttle, and boom, that electric motor kicks in. Smooth, silent acceleration right off the line.
Nice, quiet getaway.
Exactly. And as you're picking up speed, the gas engine seamlessly joins in, gives you that extra boost you need to, say, merge onto the highway or pass someone.
So it's like they're tag teaming, but like a perfectly synchronized tag team.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's always adjusting based on what you're doing, how you're riding, the road conditions, all that. Like if you're cruising at a steady pace, the gas engine might be doing most of the work, while the electric motor just kind of chills out, ready to jump in when needed.
So it's like it's always thinking ahead, figuring out the most efficient way to use both power sources.
Exactly. And then, you come to a stop and the regenerative braking kicks in, taking that energy that would usually just get wasted and putting it back into the battery.
It's like free energy, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Kawasaki really put a lot of thought into getting the most out of both the electric and gas sides of this thing.
Sounds like it. Okay, let's move on to the frame and suspension. The article mentioned a lightweight aluminum frame. Now, I know lighter is usually better, but why is aluminum such a game changer for motorcycles?
Well, think about it. Aluminum's way lighter than steel, right?
Right.
That translates to a bike that's more nimble, more responsive. You can flick it through corners easier, maneuver in tight spaces. It just feels more alive.
So for city riding, weaving through traffic, that would be huge, right?
Absolutely. But it also makes a difference on those twisty mountain roads, too. It's all about agility.
So you're saying it's not just for like beginners or casual riders, it actually benefits experienced riders who are pushing the bike a bit more.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And don't think that just because it's lighter, it's weaker. Aluminum is still incredibly strong, super rigid. You need that for stability, especially at higher speeds.
So it's got that balance of agility and stability.
Oh, okay.
And that makes sense. But what about when you're on those less than perfect roads? How does the suspension hold up?
That's where the fully adjustable suspension comes in. The 7 hybrids give these high-end inverted forks at the front and a link-type suspension in the rear.
Okay, hold up. I'm not a suspension expert. What are inverted forks and why are they like the good kind?
So think about regular forks. The thicker part is at the bottom, right?
Yeah, I think I get that.
That adds what's called unsprung weight. Basically, everything that's not supported by the suspension, like your wheels, brakes, that lower part of the forks. Inverted forks, they flip that around. Thicker parts at the top, less unsprung weight.
Okay, but why is less unspring weight a good thing?
It lets the suspension react quicker. So when you hit a bump or a dip, it can absorb it better, smoother. Imagine running with good shoes versus running barefoot on a rocky trail.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll take the shoes. So with those inverted forks and the adjustable suspension, You can, like, fine-tune how the bike handles depending on what kind of riding you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. You can adjust the compression and rebound damping. Basically, you can make it firmer or softer depending on the road. Smooth pavement, crank it up. Rough dirt road, you want it a bit softer. It gives you that control to personalize the ride.
I like that. All right, so we've got power, agility, and a customizable ride. But what about stopping power? Because none of that matters if you can't stop safely.
Good point. Kawasaki didn't mess around there either.
Yeah?
The 7 hybrids got dual 310 millimeter discs up front, 250 millimeters in the rear, all with Nissan calipers.
Okay, confession time. I'm not really a brake expert. What's special about Nissan calipers?
Nissan's like the gold standard in braking systems. They've been around forever, supplying brakes to pretty much every major motorcycle
So
brand.
they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, they know how to stop a bike. And having those dual discs up front, that's super important for a bike with this much power. It gives you that extra stopping force you need and helps with heat dissipation, keeps the brakes working consistently, even if you're, really laying on them.
So they've thought about everything, huh?
It seems like it. They really wanted to make sure every aspect of this bike was top-notch.
Okay, so far we've talked about the hybrid system, that lightweight frame, the fancy suspension, and the superpowered brakes. Is there anything else they could possibly cram into this thing?
Well, we've only scratched the surface of the tech features. We touched on that TFT display and the connectivity stuff earlier, but there's so much more to talk about there.
Yeah, you mentioned it was customizable, but I didn't really grasp what that means for the rider. Like, what can you actually do with it?
Okay, let's say you're on a long road trip. You want to see your speed, how much fuel you have left, how far you can go before needing to stop. You also want to have your navigation up and maybe your music playing.
Yeah, that sounds about right for a road trip.
With the 7 Hybrids TFT display, you can choose what information is shown and how it's laid out. It's all about giving you the data you need in a way that makes sense for you.
So it's like your personalized dashboard.
Exactly. And remember, it connects to your phone, so you can control your music, see who's calling, even get those turn-by-turn directions all right there on the screen.
I'm picturing myself cruising down the coast, sun's out, music's playing, and I've got this futuristic display guiding me to the perfect sunset spot.
That does sound pretty awesome, and that's the thing. That level of connectivity and personalization, that's what makes this bike stand out. It's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about the entire experience.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Powertrain, frame, suspension, brakes, tech features. What else is there to talk about?
Well, we haven't even touched on the competition yet. How does the 7 Hybrid stack up against other bikes in its class? And, the bigger picture, what does this all mean for the future of motorcycling? That's the really interesting part.
You're right. That is the big question, and we'll definitely be diving into that after the break. So stick around for the final part of our deep dive. It's going to be a good one. Okay, so we're back, and we've talked about all the cool features, the tech, the performance, but now I kind of want to step back and think about, like, what does it all mean? Where does the 7 Hybrid fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, it's more than just like a shiny new toy. It's a statement, I think. Kawasaki is making a pretty big bet on hybrid technology being the future of motorcycles.
It's definitely bold. It felt like for a while electric motorcycles were kind of stuck, lots of potential, but limited range, and people worried about losing that, like, raw power that you get from a gas engine.
Right, exactly. And that's what makes the 7 Hybrid so interesting. It's not just electric, it's not just gas. It's trying to be both,
Yeah.
and not in a clunky way. It's a really well-integrated system.
So you're saying for someone who's not ready to go fully electric, maybe they do a lot of long rides, this could be that bridge they need.
Totally. You can zip around town on electric, all quiet and clean. But then when you want to hit the open road, you've got that gas engine ready to go. No range anxiety holding you back.
And, the motorcycle industry hasn't really been as quick as, say, the car industry to go electric. I think this bike could be, like, a turning point.
It could be, yeah. If it's successful, which, let's face it, a flagship model from Kawasaki probably will be, it could be a signal to other manufacturers, right? Like, hey, hybrid is the way to go. And that could lead to more options for riders, more innovation, more competition, which is always good.
And that brings up a bigger point, doesn't it? This isn't just about motorcycles. It's about how we get around in general.
Absolutely. We're seeing this shift toward electric and hybrid everywhere. Cars, buses, even those little scooters you see zipping around.
It's like a whole transportation revolution.
Yeah, and I think the 7 Hybrid is riding that wave, but with a twist. It's not just about being green. It's about being exciting, stylish, appealing to people who love motorcycles, not just people who want to save the planet.
Okay, so let's bring it back to our listener for a minute. Let's say you're thinking about getting a new motorcycle. What are the questions you should be asking yourself with all these new options out there?
Well, first off, think about how you ride. How far do you usually go? What kind of roads do you ride on? What's most important to you? Is it performance, efficiency, comfort, all the tech bells and whistles?
Right, because if you're mostly in the city, maybe a full electric makes sense. But if you're doing long hauls, something like the 7 Hybrid with that extended range might be the way to go.
Exactly. And don't forget about the cost, Electric might be cheaper to run day to day, but the upfront price can be a lot higher. Hybrids kind of fall in between.
So it's a lot to consider. But it's an exciting time to be into motorcycles.
Mm.
So many choices, so much new technology. It really does feel like we're on the edge of something big.
I agree. And the Kawasaki 7 Hybrid, I think it represents that shift, that potential for something really new.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the Kawasaki 7 Hybrid. It's been a blast.
It has. Lots to think about.
And for everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What do you think the future of transportation holds? Self-driving cars, flying motorcycles, something completely out there we haven't even thought of yet. Let us know in the comments. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, ride safe and keep exploring.